Kei te mihi nui, kia koutou, i ngā iwi, i ngā mana, i ngā reo, i ngā hau e whā. Tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa. Ko wai au, ko Mavis Mullins a hau. Ki te taho o tōku hakoro, ko Punga Paiwai. Ko rua hene te maunga, skipping, ko Manawa tū te awa, ko rangi tāne te iwi, ko kaura haupo te waka, te hei Māori ora. Ki te taho o tōku hākui, ko Josephine Wanarere, ko rua pehu te maunga, ko Wanganui te awa, ko ngā pairangi te iwi, ko Ātihau nui a Paparangi te iwi, te hei Māori ora. What a privilege, what an honour to be here today. Kate, you're amazing. Te whakatupua putia, you know, this thing seemed to have just gone boof, just like that. Got a call, what do you think? Next minute, date's done, speakers are arranged, I go, oh, this was unreal. But you know, isn't that the way we do it? When we believe and when we know, you just go. So all honour to those who have been involved in this. So what I'd like to do today is to share with you, first of all, very quickly, a little bit of an overview of my governance, and I'm going to call them a footprint, because we just leave footprints. You know, it might be a journey, but actually these are very small footprints that we leave as we go through. And I thought to be helpful, I would share with you 3 challenges that have really, I'm going to say, hit me in the face as I've gone through this journey. It was really interesting. I want this to be really honest and intimate, but with 1,000 people, that might not happen quite as I would have liked, but I will share as much as I can. And then I'd like to leave you with 3 wins, because we have to do the wins, don't we? You know, they can come few and far between, so let's hit them all. And then, as we enter the realm of matariki, I want to leave you with my matariki, my guiding stars, if you like. Let's see how this goes now. No, okay. All right. So, my governance role started at a very young age. Next one, thank you. At a very young age. And I think that's what being Māori actually means. We start these journeys very young, very, very young, because as whānau, we all have a land footprint somewhere, probably everywhere for a number of us. And so being taken to marae to listen to those long, laborious, boring kōrero that our nannies and parents had starts us on a journey, and we don't always know it's there. But the topic of my kōrero that I was asked to speak on was our lessons from our history. And you know, I haven't got time for any of that because that's a bit bigger than me. But I want to share with you a video, if we can get this video up. And I only want probably no more than 2 minutes, guys, with it. It is unashamedly a promo, but you'll live with it. We can have that, because I think it does start to give us some context around our history. Those things have been in my lifetime. Amazing. Amazing. Now, if we think about from where did that end? 2010 to now, 2022, what does our timeline look like? Every time I watch that, I go, don't we just honour those who have set their footprints in place for us? I feel so moved. I guess one of the things I want to actually really emphasise is that I'm sure when those rangatira that we saw on the screen started their journey, I bet they didn't know where that was going to end. So, we shouldn't really nail ourselves into something. And I know I've got some friends that they were doing this and they're there. Not me, people. It was wee, wah, and a little bit like, babies in between, and then a new business here and a something else there. You never know exactly where your destiny's going to take you. And I love that. I love the freedom. I love the excitement. I love the stress when you don't really know what that means. And then, there's something else within that. And I use this as a bit of a stock standard for me, because it's got some words here that really reflect and I hope help you to feel that you don't have to be stuck. But from sharing sheds to the science of agribusiness, that's a big deal, especially now when we're looking at things like GHG and climate change, when we've got 3 waters on our doorstep, all of these things. When you go from being a farmer, where you toil the land, to now being very much a safe food producer for whānau, for global, changes the complexion of the kōrero. When you go from a rural business to a global telecommunications, wow, how did that happen? These things move from land protectors to treaty settlers, another big movement, and from culture to commerce. And you know what? There is culture in commerce. There is our culture. There is our tikanga in commerce. And in the beginning, I didn't know that. In fact, kind of hid it. But now it leads the story. I have a kōrero, a picture here of some tupuna, because like the rest of us, everywhere we go, we take them. I wear the bling of my nan. I wear the bling of my other nan, because I know that they sit within me. I know that they're always there. So anyway, let me now quickly move to what I'm going to share with you as my 3 challenges. Okay, the 3 challenges. Now, first one is, and this is old school now, but it's still very real, tokenism. My very, very first Crown appointment was onto the Vehicle Testing Authority. I did a bit of homework. I thought, okay, yep, I can perhaps see a role there for me. I attended that first board meeting. Vehicle Testing Authority was a government Crown entity. It was being set up for sale, for privatisation. And as I sat around that table with some very, very smart, intelligent, kind, non-Māori governors, it suddenly went smack. You are the token. And you know what? It was interesting because for a minute, I wanted to get up and walk out, but I didn't. I'd spoken to my whānau earlier, and the thing was, you can flip that lid. I can go there and be the token, or I can go there and show them what up, And that was part of the strategy. So I sucked it all in. I learnt about the machinery of government. I learnt about the pathway or the processes that came out of Treasury in terms of valuing a Crown entity, and then the negotiations that happened to find who that private partner might be or that private purchaser might be. It was one of the most amazing experiences I had. And you know what? From that day onwards, token or not, I was in, because that was something else led onto that. So I do have friends, colleagues, who are very offended by that. Oh, not me. Take it in. I can do that. Then it's about proving them, whoever them are, that we are in this space and we can do this. The second big challenge I had was conflict of interest, or conflict of values maybe. And so this was an appointment onto Landcorp. And for me, as a mokopuna of the whenua, this was like, wow, Papantuanuku on steroids, scope, scale, size, opportunity. It was just amazing. Loved it. Loved the learning. Loved the opportunity to contribute. And then we had a director's tour, and we went to Northland. And of course, we drove into the far north. We drove past, we were in a flash bus because you had directors and management. We drove past a set of cattle yards, tino rangatiratanga flag, blankets around, and of course you could just feel the, and I haven't still yet got the right word, you could feel the tenseness in the bus as we went past. Kind of like, oh my God, what's going on there? Never said anything. But when we got to our hotel and we had a chance to debrief, and they said, those people, you know, that's a family that won't listen. And I was able to say, they are mana whenua. These are their lands. We are on their land. How do we reconcile that? It was a tough time for me as I started to realise, OMG, on the meat and the sandwich here, because in my role as a director, you know, I have a commitment to professional director behaviours. But then I've got this DNA that's going, hell no, girl, come on. So, you know, there comes a time when you really have to make those things work. I'm proud that I was able to actually advocate for some of those returns, you know, and for those from the far north, what a beautiful thing it was to see Sweetwater's, a very sophisticated, state-of-the-art dairy enterprise, go back to iwi. Didn't win all of them, but we were able to win a couple. So it's being able to actually come to live with that conflict that's there, to understand that if your voice isn't at the table, whose is? And if I'm not the right one to be there, then I need to think about who might be, because I'm not always the right person to be at that table. And then the last one in the challenges, you know, this is all hard stuff, eh? I was like, oh, God, weighty stuff. A lopsided partnership. And I'm going to, this is very current, so I was a negotiator for Rangitane for the treaty settlement. And I guess what I saw was when we are forced into a place where the rules are already made, where the framework is already set, where the whole place moves like sand and you have no control, where you are fighting for whakapapa, when you are fighting for mana, your mana whenua status, now that's tough stuff. But you know, one of the things that we soon realised as a negotiation team was that this is an imperfect, totally imperfect framework, but it's the only framework there is. Do we step in and make it the best we can, which we know will never be fabulous, but it'll be okay? And is it better than where we are? You know, there's a lot of reconciliation that has to go on, not just in your head, but in your heart. And then talk back to those tupuna, you know, oh, God, koro, is this the right way to do this? Are we going the right way? Should we stop? There's a lot of that kind of internal discussion that always happens. And as a director, as a governor, whether it's for Māori or non-Māori, you know, we just need to accept that these things are there and you're going to have to make a call at some point. So anyway, let's move to the next one. I want to leave you with some wins because I think this is really important. The first one I want to talk about is playing the long game. It's interesting how we always talk about intergenerational investment, and yet we want our dividend now. I've always struggled with that bit. But anyway, let's work through that. But the example I want to give here was with Māori Spectrum. In 2000, Minister Parekura Horomia appointed 14 Māori to the trust, Māori Spectrum Trust. What an honour that was, until we found out actually this was a bit of divide and rule going on here. So you get to understand the plays. But we're a bit smarter than that. So we were able to go to some of the claimants who were also had this on their agenda, had put it on the table. We were able to go and say, we tautoko, absolutely tautoko, but allow us to try and see if we can accelerate something over this side. They weren't easy discussions to have, and I've heard some of the names this morning of some of those kaumātua that we had to go and have those kōrero with. I can still see some of the eyes looking at us thinking, you wet behind the ears, rangatahi, what do you think you're doing? But we got there. We got there because we were able to go and have that kōrero. So 2000 Māori were given the opportunity, and then we spent the next 9 years changing legislation. Now for those that have done that, that's tough. That's a tough gig. That's submissions, that's negotiating with every ministry there was really to get our place, to have our place. It was informing our people, which we did well sometimes and not so well other times. There was times when sitting on our hands was all we could do. But in the end, 2009, launch of 2 Degrees Mobile happened. Māori, the only New Zealand shareholders in that company. Where we are now, $13 billion in terms of what that means for the New Zealand economy, and growing. And of course, we now have the merger of 2 Degrees Mobile with Vocus. So not only mobile, but broadband. This thing is going to go. It's going. We also have now the establishment of the Māori Communications Commission under the guidance of Anthony Royal. So, our journeys might start somewhere, but actually they don't stop. The baton gets passed, the next one comes through, and the next one, and the next one. We got this far now. I feel great about that. So the next one I want to talk about, so I go back to 2 Degrees. People have often said to me, actually that didn't do much for iwi Māori. And I go, we have made huge benefit to Aotearoa New Zealand Inc. I never got anything, our marae never got anything individually, but as a consumer, hey, we got it all. More than $5 billion in savings for New Zealand consumers of this. How cool is that? That's a big story, love it. My next big win is around succession, planning, transition with mana. It's an interesting thing, we talk it, but we often find it hard to do. And I'm so proud as the retiring chair of the Ātiho Wanganui Incorporation. What an amazing journey we have had when we've been entrusted to care for and grow the remnants of our land for our people. Do you know what we've been able to do? We've been able to put our story, our kōrero, onto our red meat. We've been able to do that with our honey. Is it easy? No. Has it always worked? No. But it's there. Again, that long view, have the long game, because these things will come its time. And succession, I'm so proud of of what we did in terms of succession planning. We looked at the leaders in this space, like Wakatu, like Mangatu, like Paraniaki Waitotara. We looked at the amazing stuff they were doing as they were bringing through their next layer of leadership, and we copied. We proudly copied the great work that was already out there, made it our own. And we have, I'm not going to say a wall, but it's starting to feel like a wall of young, vibrant, pushy, strong new leaders coming through. How wonderful is that? And I guess with that, it's about making that space, growing that space, and then knowing when it's your time. And that's not always easy, because although I'm retiring as the chair, I come up for election at the end of this year, and I will not make myself available. I have been there a long time. I love it. There's more to do, but it won't be for me to do. It's for the next lot, and I'm excited for them, and I look forward to working and standing behind them or beside them or wherever they want me to be. I trust them. And then the last one that I want to give is around Agri Women's Development Trust. Now, many of you may not have heard about this, but a friend of mine, Lindy Nelson, came to me with this research, and she said, Mavis, read this. And it was about women in the rural areas, actually. And although a lot of her research was around non-Māori, man, I saw myself in there. I saw how we had women in rural communities just dying to apply their skill, their leadership, but didn't kind of have those rural networks. In the Agri Women's Development Trust now, we have grown through personal and professional development more than 2,000 rural women who now pepper the boards of the primary sector. And then, of course, just recently, one of our first trustees, Hinerangi Edwards, recognised with a Queen's birthday. Yeah, absolutely. So proud of Hinerangi. How wonderful. And now we have sitting on that board Poto Davis from Tainui and Anne-Marie Broughton. Again, opening those doors. And I guess for me, that was one of that's another big win where you can make the space, hold the space. And that's something I think we all need to think about in terms of our journey. And then my last one, because I think I've just about done my time, is my matariki. What are those things? And Kate, you asked about those values. This includes values. Now, this is an old tape of mine. I bang on about it all the time. But I like to make mokopuna decisions, not for me. None of this is for me. It is for others. It's for the new. It's about playing that long game. Have that 100-year plan, even if it's quite empty. Start thinking about what that looks like. And I see a beautiful friend of mine over there, Tina Pro, who has helped Ātiho to really implement a taiao strategy that pushes right out there. It's so exciting. Except that not everything's going to go well. You're going to fall over, you're going to get a kick in the head, you'll get growlings. Kei aha. Just deal with it. Be brave in using your voice. You don't have to be the voice all the time, but when you do, be brave with your voice. And just be you. Be the real you. Don't be that other you. Be the real you. Let values lead you every time a coconut. We have a value. What does that look like when our farm managers do it? What does it look like when our receptionist does it? What does it look like when I do it? What does it look like for whānau? Let it lead. Make it real. Make and hold the space and then know when to move over. Be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Let others love you, because we need that in this space. And lastly, find and treasure your tribe. I have an amazing tribe. I have an amazing sisterhood, and I treasure them, and they're always there for me. And you need to do that too, because that is your scaffold that keeps you upright all the time. Thank you for the opportunity to share my time with you. I love everything that we do here, Māori for Māori, you know, but Māori for Aotearoa Inc. actually, because everything needs us to be the best we can possibly be. I wish you so well in your journeys. Much love to you all. Tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa.
Thank you, Mavis.